Okay, take number 4 or 5. I'm probably gonna put them all into the making of because I like doing it. You know, you can just take what I leave. It's all somewhat relevant if you know how to work with this stuff. So what I do is, I already said it, I start on a piece of paper, but I always use the paper from both sides. You know, I find this very important. And then I make a sketch, right? And then I see, okay, what have I drawn? And then sometimes I get back to the sketch. You know, every artist has their own process. With me, I need lots of food, which is ketogenic. Mostly I eat meat, I make soups, stews, curries. I have stopped eating potatoes because of the starch. It just feeds fungal overgrowth in your colon, right? That's all stuff that helps me with my art, because if I don't, you know, if my spirit, my seed doesn't die, then I can stay up here much longer, where I can channel really intricate, let's call them truths or insights or perspectives into an artistic expression, which is then abstract and doesn't have people sitting on edge when you present it in such a way, because most people won't even understand what the underlying topic of such an art presentation is. Now, when I started with energetic Leech-Fly, I knew it was gonna be, you know, I don't want to say what the actual topic is, simply because it's a delicate topic, and I don't want to jeopardize what I'm doing here. So there is a bit of intensity with my line of work. If you are using art to express truth that is being subdued by some kind of a larger giant corporation that rules the area where you live in, if you want to express it like that. So in order to deal with this stuff, right, I do crochet, I'm knitting, you know, I'm doing embroidery. This is all that helps me focus. You know, I do the handstand. I know Vrishchik Asana, Mayur Asana, that's yoga forms that I'm working with. I work a lot with breath work. I hold planks, you know, I do animal movement to get to the bathroom. I eat a lot of food because this is, for some reason, it's really strenuous work. You know, I'm silent most of the time until I have to record something, and until then I'm, you know, somewhere between hell and heaven. I'm just trying to stay between hell and heaven. I don't want to get too high into this, oh wow, this is so amazing, and I don't want to be, oh, I hate my life. So I also have to clean my apartment. That's all part of the process that I've also hidden in my other content. It also comes up in my books. So what do? I make a sketch. I have a story, I make a sketch, right? And then I try to tap forwards from sketch to sketch, because sometimes things change. Sometimes the narrative changes in between. That's part of the creative process, you know? It's like having children. You don't know what your children are going to turn out. You just have to see as all of you move along, you know? Okay, what does your child actually want? What interests your child? Well, that's for your child to show you, and not for you to tell the child, you know, what it has to do. So nobody can tell me what I have to do, because it's very intricate work. It's emotional, it's energetic. I'm mostly an emotional artist. I web emotions into my work. And for that I have to feel it all. And in order to feel it all, I have to seclude myself and just sit with the topic and the feeling that the topic confronts me with. Because I've lived in this society, things have happened in the last couple of years, and these things were wake-up calls for many of us. And so you make a sketch, You start drawing, making a story. I mean, I'm an author. I have written books. So I know how to set up, storylines. I have, lots of books that you can find on my website. There's also a link in the description of this video to my books. The latest one was Portals Through Life. Anyway, this is just the process. You have to figure it out, what your process is, how you deal with your emotions. I wanted to share stuff that I find in society, emotional, traumatizing episodes of society, which I have observed. So I'm just transcending this stuff, but I'm going through hell to do it in an interesting way. So after I have taken the sketch, I take a picture or scan it, because if you don't have a camera anymore, you can just scan 2/2 of an A3, sheet of paper, and then 2 times A4 is A3. So a scanner usually knows how to scan A4. So then you have 2/2. I also did screen recordings of that. Then you have 2/2, and you just put them together, and then you've got A3. And then you just bring it into the 16:9 format, so that it's this HD kind of thing. Well, and then I trace all the lines, right? First I bring it into Darktable so that the image has a bit more texture. And then I bring it into GIMP. So I'm working with Linux. It's an older version. There's no updates anymore, but never change your running system. It's working at the moment, and I can't, as long as it's working, I'm not gonna do anything about it, I'm not all the time on the internet. I just have a data contract, because I don't really need a lot of internet. And then most of the stuff I'm doing comes through mind. That's why I meditate actively, by holding poses, but also holding your pose during your crochet session. I do crochet. Okay, I don't want this to get too long. How long is this? Okay, maybe I'm gonna have 15 minutes in the end. That's okay, because I have lots of recordings. Okay, let's see. Now I have it on GIMP. I trace all the lines, and then I add the colors and stuff, which is a hell of a lot of work, but I kind of like it. It's just something you do to get it done, right? You have an idea in your mind, you want to get this done, and that's just something I do to get it done. So I'm working towards a goal. And since I'm working towards a goal, which is finishing this, because this video is a dissertation on a topic, which I just don't want to name. People have to figure this out. It's pretty obvious, but not everyone will get it. So there is a message in there, right? It's not just about flies. There's something else in there, but I can't say it openly. That's all I can give you here. I can be more obvious in my books or on my podcast. Right, I can be much more obvious, but here I cannot be so obvious. So that's what you're getting, right? Hints, it's just riddles in the dark. So I make a screen recording. Just a second. Okay, the screen recording, I don't do it always because my computer is fairly small and it breaks down more easily when I'm recording my screen, so I don't record everything. Plus it's also, I find it more strenuous, because there's extra pressure while you're recording. Sometimes things just take time, and if there's a screen recording running, I don't know, it can be a bit annoying. Okay, so I'm trying to get to the point here. I'm getting to the point. Okay, after I have created the artwork, I have to turn this into a video. Now, I use Kdenlive, and I wanted to bring a bit of movement in there. And so I took the images and I created masks. So you have layers in Caden Life. Everything is about layers. The music I make, the sound files I make, there's layers over layers over layers, and that's reality. And that's why I love it, because, but I don't always, you know, I just know it's like this. You look in and you look out, right? You see the surface, you scale away, you just shape away the layers, you just look through. It's like you look into someone, see the intention, and then you decide, okay, do I want to engage with this person or not? Well, most people in this society, you know, I give a clear no, but it gives me more time to make art, so I don't really mind. I don't touch people. I've stopped touching people. When people want to shake hands, I just nod to them, you know, like ancient India style or something. So I don't shake hands, you know, I don't make soul contracts with people. You know, you want to get shit done? Okay, you can join me on a hike, you know what I'm saying? And then sort out your own life, because I'm living, but you're not. And now you see me, you want to have me, yeah, forget it. Okay. Now I'm just saying, I'm not inclined to fly across the world just because I have made art, you know. I'm very grounded, so I'm not gonna step into a plane. I'm not even stepping into cars anymore. You know, I just walk. I walk a lot. And that's what makes my art, what I feel, powerful. I feel my own art, if I compare it to the art of others, also in terms of written books, when I have read books of others, I feel there's always something missing. You know, there's this toughness missing, this I've pushed through a hike without shoes. You know, that's what I'm missing. I gather my own herbs, you know, I hold my planks. You know, everything I find here is just so weak. And so, you know, I do what I find myself to be strong art, to the point where I feel weak myself, because, you know, I've poured it all in there. So, but for me, this is it's a nice thing, because it's a close. I can close this topic. You know, I wanted to do this. It took me a couple of months to get there. There were all kinds of things standing in the way, but it's the neatest I have ever closed with such a project, because my kitchen is clean. I just, you know, my whole apartment was clean through the entire process. I regularly did my dishes, I brought out the trash, I did my laundry. So yeah, this is really the neatest I have ever delivered such a topic, or any topic, you know. And what I had to sacrifice was watching movies, listening to anything, you know. I'm just creative. You know, if I don't manage to make art, if I don't manage to write something, if I don't manage to, okay, I was reading a bit of Terry Pratchett, you know, okay. You know, I was reading Going Postal, but I realized it steals my time, so that was the only thing I did. I don't listen to music, I don't watch movies, I occasionally check stuff on the internet if I feel like I'm really missing something, but the rest of the time it's just eating food and doing my exercises, you know, holding the handstand as long as I can, trying to get from there into the scorpion, you know, stuff like this. It's just, you have lots of time, you're alone in an apartment, and you just pour into art. But I also need to take breaks, so, you know, I do my own baked chickpeas, but I have put recipes of food into what? Into what? The Book of Fear. Yeah. Sorry, I was a bit getting lost in trying to explain myself. It's a bit stupid, because you won't get it until you've hiked barefoot for 12 years. You just won't get it. If you never hiked 20 kilometers to a lake in winter, swam, and then hiked back another 15 kilometers, you just won't get it. But I did, and some others have as well. And, you know, there's things you can do to help in this world, which is show people who want to know what's going on in your own way. And do maybe something locally. learn, because this for me is for nature. I do this because I love nature. I want to see the natural world come back. But I also see this life as a challenge. To stand here, speak about topics in my own kind of way, present what I've found in my own kind of way. You know, I have creative freedom, you know, and nothing else could work for me, because the truth that I feel is the truth that I pack into my stuff. Nature is superior in all ways. You know, nature is always there. And if there's not this society, then there's a desert. If there's not this desert, then there's a forest, right? And we can learn to live in these places. I just don't want to live in the desert, you know. But that's what we're creating here. I mean, I'm living in an area in Germany which used to be called, you know, Rainscheid. So it rained a lot here. We have just 6 weeks no rain, and it's summer. Everything is dry, and people are filling their pools. I mean, when I studied in South Africa, they had a drought. So there were water shortages, like water, sometimes there didn't come water, and the water that was in the tap, you couldn't drink it. So until now we could drink the water here, but they're gonna keep pouring chlorine or something into this, which then means you have to buy your drinking water. So this, you open the tap and stuff comes out, it's just not gonna work forever. So I'm seeing the world dying. You know, your neighbors have more and more cars or something, and you just worry about, okay, but what's about the next generations? I mean, aren't we supposed to preserve the land for the coming generations? Isn't that what it's about, the tribe? But it's not about the tribe. It's not about, hey, you know, we can eat acorns. It's not about, hey, you know, we can eat chestnuts. No, it's about getting you to buy stuff. So I buy a bit, but I also forage, and that's great. But yeah, I'm worried, you know, it's just not raining. And so I was in South Africa, they had a drought for a couple of years. Well, that just happens if you cut down all the trees and put all these roofs everywhere, which are basically stone, which heat up. And the more heat comes, you know, it just goes up like a heat bubble and presses away all the potential rain. Because rain only happens, and that's why energetic Leech-Fly is happening in a rainforest. But every forest is a rainforest, so the Rokas, that's you. That's the people you grew up with. Only they already were so alienated that they couldn't remember that this is them. So I remember this is us, the Rokas, this is us. You know, but we were already, you know, the parasite is just the idea that you need any kind of a security. You know, comfort is like a parasite in your mind, which is why I shower cold all the time. So even in winter, you know, if you want to get warm, you know, move. That's the best I can tell you. Eat chili, right? You know, clap your hands. That's what the Vikings did. You just have to do a bit of research. You have to observe and then also find stuff. You know, that's what the internet is good for. You just look at, okay, what happened while I wasn't paying attention to this because I was busy working. So yeah, the Rubik's Cube clearly also helps me. Yeah. So you just have to stay focused. That's all that it's about. You know, if you know what being omnipresent feels like, then you know how important focus is if you want to get stuff done. So yeah, after the Kane live process and I have the videos, then I start with the audio. So at some stage I probably have to write the script. And then I push through a lot of uncertainties, and then I start recording. And then I look at the script, okay, there were women talking in there were girls talking in there, you know, Lady Vine. If you're interested in the transcript, It's on my website. There's a link in the description of this video. I just put the transcript on my website. I also found it nice that I could make it that you cannot copy it. So I fiddle around with HTML, CSS, I've even done a bit of JavaScript. So I took a template, my website, I used the template and then edited it. But yeah, I did a lot of fiddling and I had to start a bit of coding, not like deep coding, but I have coded. My books are all written with LaTeX. This story will be part of a book, but since I have other books that I have to write before, well, the German version of this book is not due before 2028 December. It's also going to be short stories, but before that I have another book I'm going to start right after I have delivered this, which is in a couple of hours. Anything else I need to put in here? Well, I work with Audacity, which I find can I say audacious? It's a nice program. I just like working with it. So I don't need anything else. You know, I thought about doing 3D animations, but it just doesn't work. Yeah, my computer doesn't do it. It takes too much time, so I stick with something like 2D, make a sketch, make it look alive. So, you know, I work with scraps and then I see how it fits together. And this brings you to crafting. So if you're interested, the Book of Fear has a lot to offer. You know, there's lots of stuff you can concern yourself with instead of being afraid. And, you know, I've given you a lot of things that you can learn about the world in the Book of Fear. I refurbished it some month ago and I'm really happy with it. Yeah, okay. This is all I can give you at the moment. Was there anything else? Well, resolve and then push through. So the poetry, of course, has a lot of stuff hidden in it that can help you to keep on pushing, to figure out stuff about the world in an interesting way. I of course made more music like this. Well, it's my idea of music, but yeah, anyway, it's more poetry. It's a lyrical dissertation on the topic that it's presenting, which is part of the riddle, of course, which is like a game, but it's life and death, or life, yeah, it's not never life or death. You know, if you lose now, you may win later, so, you know, you just don't know. This is not like playing chess, you know. The chess game continues, it never ends. And yeah. So in the end it's all about respect. Okay, that's all, you know. I could keep on talking, but that's all I had to say on this. Energetic Leech-Fly, that's the making of. I put a lot of hours into this, you know. It's just take your time, figure it out, and then just start being creative as much as you can and take your time. You know, give yourself 5 years to completely change your life. And I guarantee you the Book of Fear can help you with this. And that's simply the truth from my perspective. If you work with the book is made to work with it. And so are all the other books. So Portals Through Life is also especially for people who don't want to read a guide, who more want to read stories. And that's what Portals Through Life is. There's also artwork in there. In all my books there's some kind of artwork, some sketches, and yeah, mentality of a warrior. That's an especially tough ride. There's always a bit of shadow in my stuff, which I like, just is part of the whole thing. Yeah, so yeah, okay, that's it, you know, I'm out, you know, I have stuff to do. I'm working on a new crochet hat, and I'm adding a bit different. You know, I'm working with double crochet and like mesh, making like a half mesh cap or something. And it's, you know, I've never fiddled this much, but it's nice. Okay, you know, let's get going. Work for nature, present her message, survival of the fittest is still intact, and modern man is doing a bad job, you know, holding his or their ground, because it includes, you know, his and her. Yeah, modern man is doing a really bad job, and that's actually what I like to see. So, you know, a round of applause for the many failures of modern man who just fails to understand what life is actually about. You know, just a round of applause. You know, who got this far in this making of, you know, I congratulate you warmly. You know, yeah, please consider buying a book. Do what you want, but, you know, I think my books are worthwhile. If you enjoy this kind of stuff, then you'd probably enjoy my books. Okay, yeah, the first novel I have written is actually called Letters to the Government. Yeah, I really enjoyed writing that one. It's maybe a bit rough, yeah, but so was Philip K. Dick in its beginnings. Right, you have to start comparing yourself to something at some point, and I'm just one option that you can work with. Say, hey, okay, you know, let's see what this guy has to teach. Anyway, cheerio. I always say cheers to those who suffer, because I like people who know, you know, how to push through. That's what I like. It's not about just suffering for the sake of suffering, but you want to live, you know, suffering is just a word. So just keep pushing, but take your time, you need rest and all that kind of stuff. You'll figure it out. Cheerio, right? Cheers to those who suffer.